Hello again, I'm Braddock Supervisor John Cook. Welcome back to Braddock Neighborhood News, the program I am using to provide you with information on issues facing our community and ideas on how we can strengthen our neighborhoods. This month I'm honored to have our new County Executive, Ed Long, on the show. Mr. Long began working for Fairfax County in 1977 as a budget analyst, and over his tenure has served as Deputy County Executive as well as Chief Financial Officer. His credentials and experience make him the right person for the job as we face the challenges of the future. I appreciate his taking time out of his busy schedule to be with us here today. Ed, thanks for coming on the show.
John, thanks for having me.
Now, Ed, you're a veteran of the show. You've been on once before, but a couple of years ago. But at that point, you were only a deputy county executive, and now you are the top dog, the big kahuna, the county executive. And I guess the question is, why do you come out of retirement to do this job? It's a tough job to do.
It's a tough job, and I certainly appreciate the board giving me the opportunity. But there's a few reasons, that I did come out of retirement for that. One of them is the county employees. I just think that we have one of the best workforces in the country. And when I initially retired, so many people came up to me and said, would you please consider coming back? We wished you wouldn't leave. And I've had so many people outpour well wishes to me that was one of the big reasons that I came back. Another reason that I came back was the board. I really enjoy working with you. I enjoy working with the board. We always don't agree on everything, but we, can deal with the issues. We agree to disagree, and that was very important to me too.
Well, we're thrilled to have you back. And as people may or may not know, we did a nationwide search. We hired a search firm to help us not only place advertisements for the job, but these search firms will call people in positions and say, there's an opening. What do you think? And after doing a nationwide search, and looking at the resumes, and we found that people we had right here in Fairfax County were at the top and at the well above. The pile, if you will, was Ed Long, and it was probably one of the easiest decisions that we've made on the board, because the whole board, I think, is thrilled to have you back, other than wondering why you would do this. But in all seriousness, it's great to have you here, and we've worked together in the past, and there's a level of confidence too. Unfortunately, these are not easy times. We've gone through a couple rough years, a rough recession, and while it'd be nice to say, good, that's over, we know it's kind of not. We've talked about the term the new normal, which, as I understand it, as we've been briefed and talked about, it's about at least a 5-year period. I guess we're in about the second year now of a situation where not only are we flat, but each year our revenues and our expenditures, absent change, won't match up. That just in the normal course of events, each year expenditures go up about 5% if there's no changes. Just from our scheduled employee compensation, healthcare, big one, fuel costs, vendor contracts that have escalator clauses in for every year. And so you have a 5% expenditure increase, but because we're still suppressed in the real estate market, our revenues, absent a change in the various rates, go up 2%.
Right. So
every year we got to close a 3% gap. That's not a lot of fun, and it doesn't leave a lot of room to do anything new.
Well, it's not a lot of fun, and the difficulty is that 62% of our money comes from the real estate industry. And I think if you read or you watch TV, you watch the news at night, you realize that that's not going to come back anytime soon. Yeah. So the new normal really is trying to figure out how to manage expectations, because in addition to those normal things that you mentioned, we've got impending issues that are large, like transportation. What are the federal government and the state government going to do when the federal government starts cutting back to reduce their deficit? That's going to all trickle down to the localities that have to have a balanced budget.
And it certainly doesn't make matters any easier on the board as well. My first year on the board, which was the first year when the bottom fell out of everything, there was that sense of crisis. And what I mean by that is that everyone joined together. We had a unanimous vote on the budget. Everyone said, we knew we needed to do some things. And as we go each year, we on our board we represent different places on the spectrum. We don't all agree, as you said, and those disagreements come out a little more each year as different board members. We all believe we should be going slightly different places, and that gets hard to manage as well. And that's probably hard for a county executive to. I think the other day I called our board a multi-headed hydra. We're not exactly easy to work for, because we do have different ideas.
Right, and I think one of the reasons I always, when I'm teaching or I'm talking to the public, I try to get them to realize that, the 9 board members, certainly the chairman represents the entire county, you all represent a magisterial district roughly the size of the city of Alexandria. And each of the issues can be so different in your particular district, not counting the countywide issues. So one of the challenges that I have to make sure as staff is that we get you the information you need to address the issues particular in your district, but also how do you deal with the issues countywide? And it's a tough job for you being a supervisor.
It can be, but the flip side, I think, of that fact that we have differing opinions is we're reflective of the county. You can't expect a county of 1.1 million people to always agree on everything, and I believe it's important for the board to discuss publicly various aspects of an issue, knock it around a little bit, pull information out of you, out of staff, knock ideas back and forth, because we need to continually come up with new approaches or new thoughts or revisit issues, because it's not getting any easier.
No, I agree with you, and I think I noticed what you do a lot in your district in terms of involving the community. And I know a few years ago we started having a lot of budget meetings out in the community. And I think the more the community understands the situation, then we can sort of ask them, well, if you were Supervisor Cook or you were County Executive Ed Long, what would you do? And I think you have a whole different perspective when you're trying to solve the problem and you realize that there's no easy answer, there's no magic pill. Right. What's the right balance for the good of the county as a whole? And that's difficult to reach sometimes.
But it's a good exercise, and it's healthy, and we've had various citizen committees and such in the county in various districts, and getting more ideas on the table is a good thing. When we talk about the budget, you've talked about multi-year budgeting a little bit, and that idea intrigues the board. It's something I've talked about for a while, because now that we are sort of flat, it's not just a matter of, well, what will the budget do next year, but where are we headed? So let's talk about that.
Well, I think certainly we deal with budget on a yearly basis, all right? But when we deal with the budget this year, we know it could potentially have ramifications next year and the year after. So, for example, we know that as Tyson's is growing, Tyson's is certainly our investment area in the county, sort of the economic base of the county. As that grows, it's going to need feeding and care. And when I say feeding and care, as the population grows, it's going to need police officers, it's going to need fire stations, and we're going to have to plan on that. And those take multi-year decisions to make that happen. Also, as the federal government, as we were talking, is going to start addressing the deficit, probably sometime in 2013 after the election, that's going to trickle down to the county. So what I hope to do is to present the board to have multi-year financial discussions. While we have to focus, my next budget will be 2014, while we have to focus on that, I think we also have to look at 2015 and beyond so we know what's on the horizon, because there's so many major issues there. We can't deal with them all at once. We have to figure out a plan, and I think that's going to take a multi-year approach.
And you've been in office now for I guess a day and a half. We're taping the show. We usually don't admit that, but I'll say it for purposes of this question. But so have you figured it all out yet? I mean, where are we headed? Because we do have this every year, the squeeze, and we do have big issues, transportation, stormwater, that we haven't quite gotten a hold of yet. Something has to give.
You're absolutely right, and I've always found over the years that if you know what the situation is, then you can deal with it. But right now we're in very uncharted waters. What's the state going to do with the future of road funding? In the state of Virginia, a lot of people don't know this, the state's responsible for road construction and maintenance. As the state budget gets tight, there's more and more talk about putting that responsibility on the county. Same thing on the federal government. While we get a very small percentage of our money from the federal government, Human Services in the county gets a lot of money. A lot of their money comes from the federal government. What happens if the federal government cuts back Medicaid? That's going to have a ripple effect through the state, and we're going to notice it here in Fairfax because we have to balance the budget. We don't have someone to push it off on and say, it's your problem. It's really our problem, and we have to deal with it.
And so we're going to have to make choices because we either can't do it all, or if we try to do it all, we have to understand that the cost becomes very high. And it's not like it's everyone's rolling their money. I mean, we are still, as a society, cutting back, both businesses, homeowners, households, individuals, paying off debt, trying not to accumulate new debt. Just went through a real estate bubble in the last decade. We know what that feels like. Don't want to do that again.
No.
So that is going to be a challenge.
Well, I think the word is balance. What's the proper balance between asking the taxpayers to pay for the services that they get? We certainly have high expectations in this community. I wouldn't want to live somewhere that the community didn't have high expectations. That's one of the reasons people come here. It's one of the reasons businesses come here. It's a great place to live and work and play, and we have to figure out what that balance is going forward. But I don't think anybody wants to lose the quality of the life that we have here and what we're known for.
And part of that is economic development, because if we want to increase the pie, so to speak, that means bringing in more commercial businesses. Commercial business generates tax revenue at a higher rate than it takes government services, which really was a secret of Fairfax County developing from back in the 70s, that it went from a bedroom community to a more commercial entity. And if we want to be able to not only sustain services that we have, but grow services in any area, it's a lot easier if you're taking a piece of a bigger pie than if the pie is shrinking and you're trying to get more out of it.
You're absolutely right. And when we talk about economic development, to me, there's sort of like three phases to it. One is we certainly want to attract new businesses to the county because we have a lot to offer. Secondly, we have to retain the businesses that we have. There's a lot of competition out there for other jurisdictions to steal businesses away. So we have to make sure that we retain the existing base that we have. And then thirdly, we're an aging community also. The whole county is not like Tyson's Corner. There are a lot of areas in the county that are ripe for redevelopment. So to me, that's the third issue that we have to start addressing also, is how to attract business development in those areas that need to be spruced up a bit.
And you raised a good point of that it's not just a matter of saying, oh, let's bring in new. We have to remember that we want to make sure businesses don't leave, development doesn't leave, and our transportation problems. I've already heard from different sources that they know of businesses that have said, maybe Fairfax isn't the place to go because it's too congested. The roads are in bad shape. And we don't want that to accelerate. At least, I think addressing transportation, both congestion and road maintenance, is a key to economic development.
No, I agree with you. And I translate transportation into pain. How much pain are you willing to accept in terms of time it takes you to go to work, time it takes you to run an errand, time it takes you to go home? And we have to be cognizant of that because, transportation is one factor. But it's an important factor for a lot of people. When I come in the morning from Centerville and I look at 66 as being a parking lot, and I think a lot of those people are going into the district, that's something that I wouldn't want to do every day. So we have to make sure people can get through the county, in and out of the county, and that the pain is not too high.
And it's not just a rush hour issue anymore. And 66 can be backed up at 1 in the afternoon, often is. Fairfax County Parkway, or other major arteries, Route 7.
Sometimes on weekends, 66 is just as bad as it is during the week.
Oh yeah, and you don't always know what time.
Right, so that's it. You don't know.
Tricks you. Hey, let me shift gears for a minute, because you mentioned earlier something I wanted to come back to, and that's our employees. We have great employees in the county. I found it great that in the difficult times we're having, our employees didn't complain. In fact, there has never been a time in 3 years I've been in office when we've asked somebody in some agency, hey, can you come out for a meeting in the evening? Can you prepare some stuff for us? Can you be out at something on a Saturday? The answer is always, of course. It's never been, hey, I'm out of here at 5 o'clock. And so I try to make the point at our community meetings to thank our employees, to say, we don't pay them extra. In fact, we were freezing their pay
That's right.
and asking them to work harder. They are a great resource for us.
They really are. And, they're true public servants. When you work for the government, you realize that there's going to be obligations that, you want to meet. You want to go out and meet with the citizens. I mean, that's one of the things I enjoy mostly about my job is, there's a lot of routine things you have to take care of. But when you get out and you interact with the citizens and the business group, that's what's really rewarding. And I look forward to doing that.
And I've realized, more recently, come to realize how many high-level type positions we have in county government, in Fairfax in particular. Lots of engineers, lots, financial folks. We're not talking file clerks and and easy jobs. These are high-level professional jobs delivered at a high level of service, and With jobs requiring that kind of expertise, if you didn't have good people in them, you'd feel it.
You
know,
would.
there are some jobs that perhaps you could say, you can sort of put anybody in there and it wouldn't really make a difference. It makes a big difference when your road engineer, isn't one of the best.
Well, you have to have the right people in the job. I mean, we can fill a position anytime, but if you don't have the right person in the job, you're not going to get the results and the quality, that you want. And that's another thing that I'm going to try to emphasize and make sure that we do a good job of is succession planning. We're dealing with the baby boomers now. A lot of people are retiring. Some are coming back. But we have to do a really good job to make sure that we have people that have the skills that can compete for those positions as they become vacant. Because, it's not just having a position filled, it's having a quality person in that position.
It's amazing, and I'm not being an engineering type person. When I see what engineers do, you look at the hot lanes, you look at the mixing bowl in Springfield, look at a stormwater retention pond. It takes some real expertise to do that. You don't want it done wrong.
No.
And it's not always something that's simple. Our stormwater people are on the cutting edge nationally. 20 years ago there wasn't any such thing as thoughts about stormwater. That's a big issue in Fairfax County.
It is, and that's why when we go out and we recruit employees to the county, we have to sell the whole job picture, because we may not be able to pay the most, but it is really a good place to work. We've talked about the team. I think Team Fairfax is the best there is, and when we look for good people to come on the county, a lot of people want to be part of that team. I rarely hear anymore. I used to hear early in my career, well, it's not part of my job description. Well, we don't want people like that. We want team players. And, I try to set that example. If something needs to be done, if I have to go out and get people coffee or whatever it has to do, I'm willing to do anything. And those are the type of people that I think allows us to come together and get the job done. And that camaraderie is something that, you feel good about, and it's very rewarding.
Part of what Tony Griffin did as county executive was sort of flatten the org chart a bit, spread things out, less hierarchy, more encouraging people in different agencies to work together. I think you support that approach.
I do. I mean, we are a $7 billion organization with over 12,000 employees. We're larger than a whole bunch of states. We could not run with a hierarchical form of government. We have to let people, give them parameters, give them criteria, and let them do their jobs. And I think that's the strength of how we're organized in the county. If we had that hierarchical structure, people wouldn't be happy because stuff just wouldn't get done.
Yeah, it would all get clogged up. But let's talk a little bit about the job of the county executive. It is probably, I wouldn't say probably, it is the most important job in Fairfax County. It has a tremendous impact not just on the county but on the region. And most people in the county couldn't tell you what the job is and what it does. So talk to us a little bit about, what is it? What's the regular day like as a county executive? What are all the things that are on your plate? And we only have a few minutes to do that, so we can't get the whole list. But it's a big job.
Well, I guess to me, that's the thing is regular. There is no regular day. Things come up all the time that you have to stop and you have to deal with, and that's why you have to have good people around you that can help. We have a great management team here. We have great staff. You have to trust them. And if something goes wrong, you have to learn from your mistakes and make new mistakes. But we're so big and so many things come up, we're going to make mistakes. We just have to learn from those and go forward. But, a typical day for me, I feel like I'm an orchestra leader a lot of the times. I just have to make sure that everybody's prepared, they're ready to do their job. I have a lot of demands from the community, from the business community, from the board. I have to be able to move fast, and I try to make sure that everybody gets what they need. And I can only do that by having staff being very responsive, and they really are. So, I'm looking forward, to this job, and I think staff is excited too, and I'm really excited about the possibility of continuing to work with them for a long time.
And you and Tony Griffin are friends, have been friends for a long time. You have to be yourself in this job, and it would not be either fair to you or fair to the county to sort of take an approach of, well, what would Tony do? You have to be Ed Long. So how is Ed Long different? What thoughts do you have on changes that you'll make because they will correspond to sort of your style of management?
Well, I have to thank Tony for leaving me with a ship in good condition. It's certainly a lot easier to come in and take an organization to a next level that's high performing. I'm probably a little more vocal. I'm probably a little more impatient. I probably show my emotions a little bit more. But I think the results, hopefully, will be, just like Tony. There's different ways and different styles to get to a particular point. But, I would say that I need to learn from Tony too, and try to be as patient as I can, because we deal with a lot of frustrating and complex issues. So I try to listen more, but I also realize that you have to take action and you have to move forward. You have to discuss an issue. I certainly believe in collaboration. I think the best decisions that we make are decisions that we make as a team. Sometimes those decisions aren't always clear. We have to make a decision and go forward with it. And if we make a wrong decision, we have to have the strength to go back and say we did it, we should have done it a different way, and we'll fix it.
We've talked about the budget picture. What other priorities do you have for the next few years as far as things that you think the county needs to be addressing and things that you're going to be addressing?
Well, there's a whole host of things. I mentioned succession planning. I think that's very important. The county does a great job of performance metrics. I'm going to try to figure out how we can better use those to show the board and the community what we do and help them guide maybe some of our tough decisions that we have to make with limited funding. We're in the process of replacing all of our corporate systems, our financial system, our purchasing system, our HR system. I want to make sure that the continued success on that happens as we go forward with our HR system in June. There's a whole host of projects, but I want to make sure that as we move forward, that we've always got the employees in mind, because they are the strength of the organization, and that I don't know what the future will hold in terms of the economy, but we're in this together, and we have to work as a team, the board and the staff and the community. And I think as long as we continue to do that, I think we'll be happy with the results.
We've talked a lot about people, programs. We've talked about the economy. Let's talk about county-owned facilities. You mentioned we have communities getting older. We have county facilities getting older. The government center is no longer a new building. In this year's budget, there was a board matter that I put forward with Supervisor Smith, and Tony Griffin put money in the budget to study the maintenance needs of our facilities, our trails. We own a lot of improved property, and what's the challenge there? What do you see our needs to be?
Well, the challenge there, we have over 190 county facilities, and of those, 40% are over 30 years old. The challenge is that those are needed facilities. So we have to keep them, in decent shape so that the public, gets the usage out of them they need, that employees have a good place to work. I believe, we have a program in place that's going to let us, for the next 3 years, address some of our major issues. But I think you brought it up. There are some other issues, such as trails. We have a great trail system in this county, but it's been years since we've been able to put some money in there. So we've got to be creative in terms of how we can think of setting aside some money to do that. And I think the board took a step forward in that with their budget guidelines, where they said that any money that's not needed for an emergency nature or previously planned item, we'll set aside half that of balance to deal with transportation issues. Well, this is just my assumption, but to me, trails networks and things like that are part of our transportation package. And maybe some one-time money that might fall out at year end might be best applied to some of those types of projects. We'll have to look at that and come back with some suggestions to the board. But it's something we have to address. We can't let facilities get in disrepair to where we have to close them down because they're not safe to open.
The Fairfax County Executive is not only the leader of the Fairfax County government, but is really seen as the regional leader. And in Northern Virginia and even across the region, D.C., Maryland. How do you see that role? And we've got some big regional issues that we're facing, Dulles Rail being perhaps the biggest.
Well, I've had an opportunity to attend some of the regional meetings already. And I can tell you that the other jurisdictions, even if they're a population of 1,000 or 200,000 or 1.1 million like us, many of the issues are very similar. It's just how many zeros are attached behind that particular issue. And I think that, as we have a chance to get together and chat, I have a chance with other regional groups, I'm able to pick up new ideas. They hear where we are. It goes back to this whole collaboration. The more we can talk as a region, as a team, I think, we'll figure out a way to make it work.
And I think that's a good approach. We only have time for one more question. It's probably one of the most important questions burning on the minds of people in the county, and that is, a lot of people as they approach retirement say, when I retire, I'm going to improve my golf game. Now, you've been there and you've come back. Tell us, does your golf game get better in retirement?
Well, I have to admit, and I'm very disappointed, it actually got worse. It actually got worse. So
you just lengthened the career of a lot of people out there in Fairfax County. But we'll give you some time every once in a while. We want you to stay healthy and happy. It's great to have you on board. I want to thank Ed for joining us and talking about his new role as county executive for Fairfax County. It's a big job, and I, along with my colleagues on the Board of Supervisors, look forward to working side by side with Ed as we continue to make Fairfax County an even better place to live, work, and play. I hope you've enjoyed this segment of Braddock Neighborhood News. Thank you for watching. Tune in next month for another edition, and please remember to look for ways to volunteer. Your community needs you.